In the silence of ancient wisdom lies power that transcends the boundaries of ordinary knowledge. The true seeker finds that which remains hidden from the eyes of the many. Gershom Scholem, preeminent scholar of Jewish mysticism. Imagine a king whose wisdom extended far beyond earthly governance. A ruler who could whisper to the winds and command spirits, who understood the language of animals and unlocked the cosmic architecture of creation itself. What if the biblical King Solomon, revered across traditions for his unparalleled wisdom, possessed knowledge so profound and potentially dangerous that much of it remains concealed in shadow even today? The name Solomon evokes images of splendor and wisdom: the magnificent temple in Jerusalem, the legendary judgment between two mothers, vast wealth that dazzled foreign queens. Yet beneath this visible legacy lies another Solomon, a master of arcane arts, keeper of celestial secrets, and wielder of powers that blur the line between the natural and supernatural worlds. The ancient texts speak of a man who was more than a king. They whisper of a sage who possessed a secret book, a compendium of rituals, incantations, and cosmic knowledge that granted him dominion not merely over a kingdom of men, but over realms unseen by ordinary eyes. This hidden dimension of Solomon has fascinated mystics, scholars, and seekers of forbidden knowledge for millennia. Tonight, we venture into the esoteric shadow of King Solomon, beyond the biblical narrative into realms where history meets mystery. We will explore ancient grimoires attributed to his hand, decode symbolic languages that may contain keys to universal power, and examine how his mystical legacy has shaped secret traditions across 3 faiths and countless centuries. The question that haunts these ancient pages remains: did Solomon truly possess supernatural wisdom that transcended human understanding? And if so, where did this knowledge come from? Divine revelation, ancient mystery schools, or perhaps contact with entities beyond our world? By the end of our journey, you will glimpse the hidden Solomon, not merely as a distant biblical figure, but as the potential source of an unbroken esoteric tradition that continues to influence spiritual seekers today. The secrets attributed to Solomon have survived empires, religions, and the relentless march of rationalism. Perhaps they contain truths our modern world has forgotten or deliberately obscured. What if the most profound secrets of existence were encoded in texts bearing the name of an ancient king, waiting for those with eyes to see and ears to hear? The mystery deepens with every page we turn. The historical Solomon emerges from biblical accounts as the 3rd king of Israel, ruling during the 10th century before the Common Era. The son of King David, Solomon inherited a united kingdom at its zenith of power. 1 Kings tells us that when given the divine offer of any gift, Solomon requested not wealth or power, but wisdom, the ability to discern good from evil and govern justly. This wisdom manifested in legendary judgments, such as the case of 2 women claiming the same child, where Solomon revealed the true mother through her compassion. Under his 40-year reign, Israel experienced unprecedented peace and prosperity. His crowning achievement, the First Temple of Jerusalem, stood as a wonder of the ancient world, a sacred space where heaven and earth converged. Yet even within these canonical accounts lie hints of something more mysterious. The biblical Solomon possessed knowledge of plants, from the cedar in Lebanon to the hyssop growing in the wall, understood the ways of animals, and composed 3,000 proverbs and over 1,000 songs. His wisdom attracted visitors from distant lands, including the enigmatic Queen of Sheba, who came bearing gifts and testing him with hard questions. But as we move beyond biblical text into the rich tapestry of ancient tradition, Solomon transforms into something far more extraordinary. In Jewish mystical literature, he becomes a master of the divine names of God, wielding the power of sacred language itself. The Talmud and Midrash describe Solomon understanding the speech of birds and beasts, a gift reflecting his connection to primordial knowledge lost since Eden. In Islamic tradition, as preserved in the Quran and expanded in later texts, Sulaiman commands not only humans, but jinn. These spiritual beings of smokeless fire serve his will. Allah grants him control over the winds, the ability to understand the language of ants, and knowledge of the speech of birds. The Islamic Solomon wears a ring inscribed with the greatest name of God, giving him power over all creation. Christian esoteric traditions similarly transformed Solomon into an archetype of the divinely inspired magus, a king whose wisdom extended into realms of angelic communication and cosmic understanding. By the medieval period, countless grimoires and magical texts claimed Solomon as their author or inspiration. What unites these diverse traditions is the conviction that Solomon possessed knowledge beyond ordinary human capacity, wisdom that touched the supernatural and unlocked the hidden mechanics of creation itself. But was this merely the mythologizing of a wise king? Or does it reflect historical truths about ancient mystery traditions? Some scholars suggest Solomon may have been initiated into Egyptian mystery schools through his political connections, or that he inherited secret knowledge from Phoenician temple builders. Others point to possible Babylonian or even Indian influences on his esoteric understanding. What if Solomon stood at a unique crossroads of ancient wisdom traditions, synthesizing knowledge from multiple sources into something new and powerful? And what if the texts attributed to him contain fragments of this synthesis, preserved through centuries of copying and translation? The deeper we look into the shadows of history, the more the boundaries between myth and reality begin to blur. At the heart of Solomonic mysticism lies a collection of texts that have fascinated and terrified seekers for centuries. Chief among them, the infamous grimoire known as the Key of Solomon. This mysterious text exists in numerous variations across multiple languages, each claiming to contain the authentic magical knowledge of the ancient king. The Key of Solomon presents itself as a comprehensive system of ritual magic, detailing precise instructions for conjuring spirits, creating talismans, and harnessing cosmic forces. Its pages contain intricate diagrams of magical circles, mysterious alphabets, and sigils, visual keys that supposedly unlock doors between worlds. The text describes elaborate preparations, ritual baths, specific incenses, carefully timed operations according to planetary hours, and prayers that blend Hebrew divine names with elements from multiple spiritual traditions. What makes this text so compelling is not merely its content, but its psychological framework. The key insists that the practitioner must achieve ritual purity, maintain ethical conduct, and approach the work with reverence rather than greed or malice. This moral dimension distinguishes it from mere sorcery, suggesting instead a spiritual technology for human transformation and divine connection. Though scholars date most surviving manuscripts to the 14th through 18th centuries, the text itself claims far more ancient origins. Internal evidence suggests layers of material, with some elements potentially tracing back to Hellenistic magical practices of late antiquity, when Greek, Egyptian, Babylonian, and Jewish mystical traditions intermingled in the cultural melting pot of the Mediterranean world. The Lesser Key of Solomon, or Lemegeton, contains perhaps the most infamous section of the Solomonic magical tradition, the Goetia. This text purports to reveal the 72 demons that Solomon supposedly bound and commanded during the construction of his temple. Each entity is meticulously described, along with its powers, limitations, and the sigil used to summon and control it. According to the legend embedded in these texts, Solomon received a divine ring or seal that granted him power over these spirits. Rather than banishing them, he harnessed their knowledge and abilities for his works. The Goetia presents these entities not as purely evil, but as ambivalent forces possessing specific wisdom, knowledge of hidden treasures, scientific secrets, artistic inspiration, or cosmic mysteries. This concept reflects a sophisticated understanding of spiritual forces that transcends simplistic notions of good and evil. In the Solomonic tradition, wisdom includes knowledge of darkness as well as light. The sage must understand the full spectrum of existence to achieve mastery. Beyond the grimoires themselves, the Testament of Solomon offers a narrative framework for these magical operations. This pseudepigraphical text from the early centuries of the Common Era describes how Solomon, aided by the archangel Michael, received his famous ring and used it to compel demons to assist in building the temple. Each demon, when bound, reveals its name, functions, and the angel that can thwart it, creating a comprehensive demonology that influenced centuries of magical thought. What makes these texts particularly intriguing is their syncretic nature. They blend elements of Jewish Merkaba mysticism, Hermetic philosophy, Neoplatonic concepts, and early Christian angelology into a coherent system. This suggests not random compilation, but a deliberate synthesis of esoteric traditions, exactly what one might expect from a figure like Solomon, positioned at the crossroads of ancient civilizations. Could these texts preserve, however fragmentarily, authentic traditions of an ancient mystery school? What secrets might still lie encoded in their cryptic instructions and symbols? The answers may lie not in the literal text, but in what happens when the dedicated seeker puts them into practice. The Solomonic tradition extends far beyond the famous grimoires, weaving through multiple spiritual lineages that each claim connection to his primordial wisdom. These supporting texts and traditions provide crucial context for understanding the full scope of Solomonic esotericism. In Jewish mystical tradition, Solomon embodies the perfect balance of chokmah and bina, wisdom and understanding, the second and third emanations on the Kabbalistic tree of life. The Zohar, the foundational text of medieval Kabbalah, frequently references Solomon as one who penetrated the deepest mysteries of creation. According to these traditions, Solomon comprehended the structure of the Sephirot, the divine emanations through which God creates and sustains the universe. The Sefer Raziel Hamalach, Book of Raziel the Angel, though compiled much later, claims to contain wisdom first given to Adam by the angel Raziel and eventually passed to Solomon. This text includes cosmological secrets, angelic names, and the mystical properties of letters, numbers, and celestial bodies. Its attribution to Solomon reinforces his role as the inheritor and transmitter of primordial knowledge, wisdom that existed before human history began. Islamic esoteric traditions preserve additional dimensions of Solomonic wisdom. The Shams al-Marif, a foundational text of Islamic mystical science, contains numerous references to Suleiman as a master of the divine names and the science of letters. According to these traditions, Solomon possessed the Ism al-Azam, the greatest name of God. This name granted him authority over all creation. The Akbar al-Zaman, an Arabic compendium of ancient wonders, describes Solomonic temples containing miraculous automata and mechanisms powered by celestial alignments. These accounts suggest Solomon understood principles of sacred geometry and astral science that allowed him to create technologies harnessing cosmic forces, knowledge that may connect to the engineering marvels attributed to his temple. Persian traditions speak of the Jam-e-Jam, cup of Jamshid, sometimes associated with Solomon, which allowed him to observe the seven heavens and all events throughout the world. This motif of a scrying device recurs across cultures, suggesting Solomon possessed means of remote viewing or cosmic perception beyond ordinary senses. Ethiopian traditions, preserved in the Kebra Nagast, Glory of Kings, elaborate on Solomon's relationship with the Queen of Sheba, claiming their union produced Menelik V, founder of the Ethiopian imperial dynasty. This text describes Solomon imparting secret wisdom to the queen and their son, establishing an African branch of Solomonic knowledge that supposedly included the guardianship of the Ark of the Covenant. Even Hermetic and Gnostic traditions contain echoes of Solomonic influence. The philosophical gold of alchemy. The transformation of base consciousness into divine awareness. This parallels Solomon's legendary ability to understand the inner nature of all things. Some scholars suggest connections between Solomonic wisdom literature and Hermetic texts, like the Corpus Hermeticum, both concerned with the divine nature of wisdom and its power to elevate human consciousness. What emerges from this tapestry of traditions is not merely a king with magical abilities, but a nexus point for ancient wisdom streams. A human vessel through which divine knowledge flowed into the world. The consistency of these attributions across diverse cultures suggests either a remarkable coincidence or the fragmented remembrance of a genuine historical phenomenon. Could Solomon have established an actual mystery school that initiated students into these profound cosmological secrets? Did branches of this school survive the destruction of his temple, preserving his wisdom through hidden lineages that continue to this day? The threads of this mystery lead us deeper still. The esoteric legacy of King Solomon did not vanish with the ancient world. Instead, it underwent remarkable transformations, influencing Western magical traditions for millennia, and continuing to shape spiritual practices even in our modern era. During the Renaissance, Solomonic magic experienced a profound revival. As classical texts flowed into Europe following the fall of Constantinople, scholars rediscovered ancient magical systems and sought to reconcile them with Christian theology. Figures like Heinrich Cornelius Agrippa, John Dee, and Giordano Bruno studied Solomonic texts alongside Hermetic and Neoplatonic philosophy, developing comprehensive magical systems that claimed descent from the wisdom of Solomon. The three books of occult philosophy by Agrippa, perhaps the most influential magical text of the Renaissance, repeatedly cites Solomon as an authority on natural and celestial magic. Agrippa presents Solomon not as a practitioner of forbidden arts, but as a master of natural laws and divine principles that modern science was only beginning to rediscover. John Dee, court astrologer to Queen Elizabeth III, claimed to possess genuine Solomonic texts and, with his scryer Edward Kelly, developed an elaborate system of angelic communication inspired by Solomonic methods. Their Enochian system of angel magic, still practiced today, bears striking similarities to the angelic invocations found in the Key of Solomon. By the 19th century, Solomonic influences permeated Western esoteric societies. The Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn incorporated numerous elements from Solomonic grimoires into its initiatory system. Its founders, MacGregor Mathers and Wynne Westcott, published translations of Solomonic texts that brought these materials to a wider audience. Their contemporary Aleister Crowley later adapted Goetic practices from the Lesser Key of Solomon in his own magical system, Thelema. Even modern Wicca and contemporary paganism show Solomonic influences in their use of ritual circles, elemental correspondences, and ceremonial tools. Though often unacknowledged, many practices in these traditions bear the unmistakable imprint of Solomonic methodology. Beyond explicitly magical traditions, Solomonic wisdom influenced philosophical and scientific thought. The concept of Solomon as the master of universal knowledge inspired Renaissance thinkers to pursue a unified understanding of creation. This holistic approach to knowledge helped birth modern scientific inquiry, even as science later divorced itself from its esoteric roots. In contemporary culture, Solomonic imagery and concepts appear in literature, film, and digital media. From the fantasy novels of Susanna Clarke to blockbuster films like The Ninth Gate and popular video games like the Diablo series, Solomonic themes of binding supernatural forces and accessing forbidden knowledge continue to captivate the imagination. What explains this enduring fascination? Perhaps the Solomonic tradition speaks to something fundamental in human consciousness. The intuition that reality contains hidden dimensions accessible through specific knowledge and practices. The image of Solomon commanding spirits represents the human desire to master forces that seem beyond our control, whether supernatural entities or the unconscious aspects of our own psyche. Modern psychological interpretations suggest the demons of the Goetia may represent aspects of human consciousness. Archetypal forces that can either serve our higher purpose or run rampant when uncontrolled. From this perspective, Solomonic magic becomes a sophisticated system of psychological integration, using symbolic language to address aspects of the psyche inaccessible to rational thought alone. Some contemporary practitioners approach Solomonic magic as a form of consciousness technology, a method for accessing altered states and expanded awareness through ritual means. They see in these ancient practices not superstition, but sophisticated techniques for navigating non-ordinary reality, developed through centuries of experimentation and refinement. Could the persistence of these traditions suggest they contain genuine efficacy? What if, beneath the medieval language and symbolism, Solomonic texts preserve methodologies for altering consciousness and engaging with reality in ways our conventional worldview cannot explain? Have you ever experienced a moment when the veil between worlds seemed to thin, revealing glimpses of something beyond ordinary perception? Share your thoughts in the comments below. The ultimate question remains: what truth lies at the core of the Solomonic tradition? As our exploration of Solomonic mysteries draws to a close, we arrive not at definitive answers, but at a threshold of deeper questions. The esoteric legacy attributed to King Solomon stands as a testament to humanity's enduring quest to pierce the veil of ordinary reality and access divine wisdom. The historical Solomon, if stripped of legendary accretions, remains an extraordinary figure, a king who prioritized wisdom above all earthly treasures and created conditions for intellectual and spiritual flourishing. Yet the mythic Solomon transcends history, embodying an archetypal ideal of the sage king who bridges heaven and earth through perfect wisdom. This mythic dimension may contain profound truth, regardless of historical accuracy. Throughout our exploration, we have encountered a consistent vision of wisdom that transcends mere intellectual knowledge. True Solomonic wisdom involves understanding the hidden connections between all things, perceiving the subtle forces that shape reality, and developing the moral clarity to use such knowledge responsibly. The grimoires and magical texts attributed to Solomon share several key principles that may constitute the essence of his esoteric teaching. First, the universe operates according to hidden laws and correspondences that can be discovered and utilized by the prepared mind. The microcosm reflects the macrocosm. Patterns in nature mirror cosmic principles. Second, names and language possess inherent power when properly understood and applied. The divine names, angelic languages, and words of power throughout Solomonic texts suggest that reality responds to specific vibrational patterns encoded in sacred speech. Third, consciousness itself is a tool that can be refined and directed, The elaborate purifications and mental disciplines prescribed in Solomonic rituals aim to transform the practitioner's awareness into a suitable vessel for divine wisdom. Fourth, spiritual entities, whether understood as autonomous beings or aspects of consciousness. These can be engaged through proper methods. The relationship between the magician and these forces must be one of respect and proper authority, not domination or subservience. Finally, all genuine wisdom serves divine purpose. Throughout the Solomonic tradition runs the understanding that true knowledge serves to align the human with the divine, not to aggrandize the ego or accumulate worldly power. These principles transcend the specific cultural and religious contexts in which they appeared, suggesting universal insights about consciousness and reality that remain relevant today. Perhaps this explains why Solomonic traditions have survived centuries of religious and scientific transformation. They address perennial aspects of human experience that neither conventional religion nor materialist science fully satisfies. For the modern seeker, the Solomonic tradition offers not merely historical curiosity, but a potential pathway to expanded awareness. Its elaborate symbolism and ritual practices can serve as tools for psychological integration, spiritual development, and the exploration of consciousness itself. Whether approached as literal engagement with spiritual entities or as sophisticated psychological technology, these traditions contain methodologies for transcending ordinary awareness and accessing deeper dimensions of reality. The ultimate secret of Solomon may be that wisdom itself is not static knowledge, but a dynamic relationship with the mystery of existence. True wisdom involves not merely knowing, but becoming, transforming one's consciousness to reflect the divine order it seeks to understand. As we conclude our journey through the hidden dimensions of Solomonic wisdom, I invite you to consider: what aspects of this ancient tradition resonate with your own spiritual seeking? Have you encountered practices or concepts that echo these Solomonic principles? And most importantly, how might the quest for wisdom transform your own life and consciousness? The temple that Solomon built of stone has long since crumbled, but the temple of wisdom he constructed through knowledge endures. Perhaps the true seal of Solomon is not a physical talisman, but the imprint of divine wisdom upon the prepared heart, a seal that each seeker must discover within themselves. For those who wish to explore further, our channel offers additional journeys into ancient wisdom traditions and their modern applications. Until next time, may you walk in wisdom on your own path of discovery. The mysteries of Solomon await those with eyes to see and ears to hear. The question is not whether his secrets exist, but whether we are prepared to receive them.